Hello everyone, welcome back to the Channel NewsX USA. Please subscribe and like my videos. Today we turn our focus to a dramatic and high-stakes development. Explosions rocking Moscow as Ukrainian forces strike deeply into Russia's financial and logistical heart. We'll walk through exterior aspects, interior in the sense of deeper structural/logistic details, performance in the sense of operational impact, safety features, risks and safeguards, unique selling points, why this matters, price or cost/impact, and conclude what this all means. Let's begin. First, the exterior, the explosions and external scene. Recent reports indicate a wave of explosions in Moscow and the Moscow region, triggered by a surprise drone/strike assault allegedly launched by Ukraine. Bright flashes in the night sky, smoke plumes rising over the city, alarms sounding throughout residential districts. Russian authorities scrambled air defense, with many drones intercepted, yet visible damage and disruption were still recorded. From an outside viewpoint, this external assault sends a powerful visual message that the war has reached into Russia's own capital region, undermining a sense of safety and invulnerability. The location reportedly includes critical infrastructure pipelines, fuel arteries, possibly oil refineries or power stations. For example, the strike on the 400-kilometer-long ring pipeline near Moscow's Ramenskoye district was reported to have disabled all three major fuel lines. The exterior signal is strategic. A bombarded Moscow region, dramatic explosions, disruption of fuel supply and power. The public effect is immediate: panic, brownouts, security measures, heightened alerts. So, from an exterior condition, it's a dramatic and symbolic strike. Now, interior, let's go deeper into what is actually going on beneath the surface, the structural, logistical, economic, and strategic guts of this incident. Inside the Russian war machine and economy, key nodes such as fuel pipelines, refineries, oil depots, and military logistics centers serve as the backbone of operations. In this case, the target reportedly was the Koltsavoy pipeline, sometimes quoted as Ring Pipeline, capable of transporting several million tons of jet fuel, diesel, and gasoline annually. By striking such infrastructure, the operation aims to hit not just the surface impression of violence, but the underlying flow of resources that enables the broader conflict. The interior logistics chain, from refineries through pipelines to fuel depots, then to transportation and military consumption, has been disrupted. For instance, Ukrainian military intelligence claimed this operation caused more damage than sanctions. On the economic side, Russia's refining capacity and fuel export revenue are key elements of its defense funding and economic resilience. The shock of losing a pipeline that transports millions of tons of fuel annually has both immediate operational consequences: reduced supply for aircraft, vehicles, logistics, and longer-term economic ones: higher cost, worse export balance, internal fuel pressure. On the military/strategic interior, the strike forces Russia to reroute fuel, activate backups, increase defense of logistics, and potentially reduce tempo or reach of military operations. Also, psychologically, it affects morale inside Russia. The capital region is no longer immune. On the intelligence/technology interior, the use of drones or precision strikes deep into Russian territory indicates Ukraine's evolving capability to project power and strike critical targets. All of this constitutes the interior, the complex machinery of war, economy, logistics, supply chains, vulnerability, and resilience. In short, while what the viewer sees are explosions and flashes, what lies inside is a sophisticated blow to infrastructure and strategic depth. Moving to performance, here we evaluate how effective this strike appears to have been, what results can be measured, and what the indicators are. According to reports, the pipelines were disabled, fuel flows cut, and Russia saw power outages in the Moscow region. Videos and photos showed explosions and fires in regions like Volgograd oil refinery and across multiple energy sites. Ukrainian forces reportedly carried out coordinated drone or missile strikes, demonstrating improved range, accuracy, and audacity. The fact that the pipelines near Moscow were reportedly hit shows penetration deep into Russian territory and internal logistics. The claim by Ukraine's intelligence that the impact was greater than sanctions suggests a significant performance in asymmetric warfare terms. On the Russian side, air defense systems were activated. Russia claims many drones were intercepted. But even if many were stopped, the visible effects explosions, disruption imply at least partial success. From a performance standpoint, then, the mission appears to have achieved its aim of delivering strategic shock, disrupting logistics, and signaling vulnerability. The true longer-term measure how much fuel flow remains disrupted. How Russian military operations are impacted will unfold over days/weeks. Now, safety features. Here we consider safeguards, risks, unintended consequences, collateral damage, civilian impact, and measures to control escalation. Striking deep into a country's capital region raises major risks. Potential civilian casualties, damage to non-military infrastructure, escalation of conflict, and broader geopolitical fallout. In this case, Russian officials reported power outages and disruption in the Moscow region. They did not immediately provide full casualty figures. Also, reports noted that some of the explosions might have been caused by anti-drone defense systems misfiring. So, one safety feature or risk mitigation concern is ensuring that target selection minimizes civilian harm and avoids humanitarian/legal breaches. From Ukraine's perspective, the strike presumably targeted fuel pipelines serving military/logistics functions rather than purely civilian supply. Yet fuel pipelines supply civilian as well as military needs. Another safety dimension, Russia's retaliations. Such strikes open the door to severe counter-strikes, so there is an escalation risk. Also, fuel infrastructure damage could lead to environmental hazards, fires, spills, supply disruption to civilians, possible humanitarian consequences. A safety measure for the viewer to understand the importance of verifying targets, monitoring for civilian harm, and preparing for blowback. From a broader strategic safety viewpoint, the attack signals a shift in what is considered safe inside Russia, which may lead Russia to escalate its own attacks or expand its definition of targets. In summary, while the operation may be tactically successful, the safety and humanitarian risks are non-trivial, and the strategic side must include risk management to avoid unintended escalation. Next, unique selling points i.e., why this story matters, what sets it apart, what is compelling about it. First, the location, Moscow region, the heart of Russia's political and economic power, historically considered relatively safe from direct attack. The fact that explosions rock that region is itself a major psychological and strategic moment. Second, the target type, fuel pipelines and energy infrastructure. This is not just battlefield action, but strikes aimed at the economic/industrial/logistics backbone. That elevates the story beyond a conventional battle narrative into the realm of warfare of infrastructure and economy. Third, the sophistication and reach. The claim that Ukraine can strike deep into Russia suggests a shift in dynamics and shows a dimension of escalation/innovation. Fourth, the potential ripple effects. Disruption of fuel supply, impact on military operations, economic pressure, morale effect. Possible political ramifications inside Russia. Fifth, the visual and narrative drama, explosions, smoke streaking over Moscow, and images of Russia's own homeland being penetrated. These make for compelling viewing and high engagement. Finally, in the context of the war more broadly, this event shows that Ukraine's tactics are evolving, that it can target not just front-line assets but deeper strategic infrastructure, and that Russia's defensive perimeter is vulnerable. This makes the story timely, newsworthy, and significant. Now, price or cost/impact. In a conventional product review, one might speak of a monetary price, but here we interpret price as the cost, impact, and consequences of this operation. On one side, the cost to Russia, the disrupted fuel pipeline reportedly used to transport millions of tons of jet fuel, diesel, and gasoline annually. That means Russia will face increased operational costs rerouting, using less efficient supply chains, possibly fuel shortages or increased internal fuel prices, added maintenance/repair cost, insurance, security upgrades. On Ukraine's side, carrying out such an operation likely involves significant investment in drones, munitions, intelligence, logistics, operational planning, and risk of retaliation. The cost also involves diplomatic/strategic risk. The price paid by civilian populations may include disrupted energy/fuel supply, possible environmental damage, social disruption in affected regions. The broader price, this may accelerate escalation of the war, with all attendant human and economic costs. So, in reviewing price, we emphasize that although the strike may be low cost compared to large conventional operations, its consequences are high regionally and strategically. For the viewer, the price tag is measured not in dollars but in disruption, strategic advantage lost/gained, morale effect, future vulnerability, risk of retaliation. Finally, conclusion. To wrap up, what does this all mean? The strike that triggered explosions in Moscow and targeted Russia's fuel infrastructure marks a significant moment in the war. It shows that Ukraine is extending its reach and targeting Russia not just on the front line, but within its own territory, hitting the economic and logistical backbone. For Russia, it exposes vulnerability in areas previously considered secure, undermines morale, raises domestic pressure, and forces a reassessment of defense priorities. For Ukraine, it demonstrates innovation, asymmetric tactics, and the capacity to influence the war beyond direct battlefield engagements. The broader implication is that war now includes energy, economy, infrastructure as key battlegrounds, not just geography, not just trenches. The psychological effect is as important as the physical damage. However, the risks remain. Escalation is a real possibility. Civilian impact must be monitored. Long-term consequences will unfold. Repair and defense will consume Russian resources. For viewers and analysts alike, this event invites deeper questions. How will Russia respond? Will Ukraine sustain such deep strikes? How will global audiences and allies react? Ultimately, this strike underscores that in modern conflict, hitting the financial heart, energy pipelines, refineries, logistics hubs can be as powerful as hitting the front line. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and like, and click the bell so you don't miss our next update.